The great healing halls of Nexus Prime stretched across 3 continents, their crystal domes catching the light of twin suns. Inside these sacred spaces, the most skilled healers in the galaxy gathered for their monthly assembly. The air hummed with advanced bioscanners and regeneration pods that could mend any wound, cure any disease, and extend life far beyond natural limits. Dr. Vex of the Altarian Medical Corps stood before the assembled crowd of healers. His 4 arms moved gracefully as he presented the latest breakthrough in cellular reconstruction. Behind him, holographic displays showed perfect organs growing in biochambers, bones knitting together in seconds, and damaged neural pathways rebuilding themselves with flawless precision. "Fellow healers," Vex announced, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had saved millions of lives. "We have achieved what our ancestors only dreamed of. Death from injury or disease is now merely a choice, not an inevitability." The gathered aliens nodded in agreement. Representatives from dozens of species filled the amphitheater. The tall, graceful centaurians with their natural healing abilities, the insect-like hive medics who could regrow limbs overnight, and the energy-based luminians who could repair damage at the quantum level. Each species had contributed their unique gifts to create the galaxy's most advanced medical civilization. Dr. Kess, a veteran centaurian healer, raised one of her 6 hands. "The mortality rate across all council worlds has dropped to 0.1%, she reported with pride. "Only those who choose natural death or suffer catastrophic accidents beyond our reach still perish." The assembly erupted in pleased murmurs. They had spent centuries perfecting their craft, sharing knowledge across species barriers, and building medical stations throughout known space. Their healing technology was so advanced that wars had become pointless. Soldiers could be fully restored within hours of any battle. Crime rates plummeted when criminals knew their victims would suffer no lasting harm. But not everyone in the galaxy belonged to their perfect medical society. "What news from the Outer Rim?" asked Dr. Nile, a floating luminian whose form flickered between solid and energy states. "Have the primitive species made any progress worth noting?" The question brought uncomfortable silence. The Outer Rim worlds were home to dozens of species that the Council had classified as medically primitive. These civilizations still relied on crude surgical techniques, chemical compounds, and primitive healing methods that the Council had abandoned millennia ago. Dr. Vex consulted his datapad. The reports remain unchanged. The Terran humans continue their barbaric practices, cutting into bodies with metal tools, poisoning themselves with synthetic chemicals they call medicines, and accepting death as natural. Their average lifespan barely reaches 100 of their years. Several healers made sounds of disgust. The human approach to medicine seemed not just primitive but actively harmful. They had been monitoring Earth for decades, watching humans slice open their own kind, blast their bodies with radiation, and pump toxic substances into their bloodstreams in desperate attempts to fight disease. "Should we not offer them our help?" asked a young Altarian student. "Surely even they deserve to benefit from proper healing." Dr. Vex's expression darkened. The Council voted on this matter 50 years ago. The humans were offered membership and access to our medical knowledge. They refused, claiming they preferred to find their own way, and that our methods were too invasive for their liking. The irony was not lost on the assembly. Humans considered advanced, painless cellular regeneration too invasive, while they willingly cut themselves open and poisoned their bodies with chemicals. "Let them suffer then," declared Dr. Kess. "We cannot force evolution on those who choose to remain primitive." As the assembly continued discussing other matters, few paid attention to a small notification that appeared on the edge of the Galactic medical network. A routine monitoring station near Earth had detected unusual energy signatures from the human homeworld. The readings were dismissed as another crude human experiment, filed away with thousands of other reports about their backwards medical practices. None of the greatest healers in the galaxy could have imagined that at that very moment, in a small laboratory on Earth, a team of human researchers was about to change everything. They were not working with biochambers or cellular reconstructors. Instead, they hunched over microscopes and computer screens, studying something the advanced galactic civilization had never encountered, something that would force every healer in the council to question everything they thought they knew about medicine. The humans were about to prove that sometimes the most primitive approach could achieve what the most advanced technology could not. Dr. Lisa Park wiped sweat from her forehead as she peered into the microscope for the 100th time that day. The cramped laboratory at Berkeley Medical Center bore no resemblance to the gleaming healing halls of the Galactic Council. Flickering fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows over cluttered workbenches covered with glass slides, chemical bottles, and jury-rigged equipment that would have horrified alien healers. "Are you seeing this, Tom?" Lisa called to her research partner across the room. Dr. Tom Rivera looked up from his computer screen, his eyes red from staring at data for 18 straight hours. "The cancer cells are completely gone," he said, his voice filled with disbelief. "Not just dead, gone. Like they never existed." For 3 years, their small team had been working on what most of the scientific community considered an impossible dream. While alien civilizations could heal injuries and cure diseases with perfect precision, they had never solved the fundamental problem of cellular rebellion, cancer that adapted faster than any treatment could counter it. The Galactic Council's approach was to replace diseased organs entirely or rebuild corrupted cells from scratch. It worked perfectly for injuries and most illnesses, but certain aggressive cancers seemed to anticipate every healing attempt, evolving new resistances before treatments could take effect. Humans had taken a completely different approach. Instead of fighting cancer with advanced technology, they decided to turn the body's own immune system into a weapon. "Show me the before images again," Lisa requested, moving away from her microscope. Tom pulled up the holographic display, a piece of abandoned alien technology they had modified with human ingenuity. The images showed a patient's tumor from 6 months ago, an aggressive mass that had resisted every form of galactic healing the Council had attempted. The patient was Jake Morrison, a construction worker from Nevada who had volunteered for their experimental program after Council healers declared his condition hopeless. The alien doctors had offered to replace his entire torso with artificially grown organs, but Jake refused. He wanted to keep his original body, even if it meant certain death. The tumor was sending out suppressor signals, Lisa explained, pointing to the data streams. It was literally telling the immune system to ignore it, to treat cancer cells as normal tissue. "But look at this," Tom highlighted a section of the current scan. "Our modified T cells are not just attacking the cancer, they're remembering it. The immune system has learned to recognize these specific cancer markers." What the human team had accomplished would have seemed impossible to alien healers. Instead of replacing or rebuilding diseased tissue, they had taught the body to heal itself. They had taken white blood cells from the patient, modified them in the laboratory to recognize cancer signatures, and then reintroduced them to the body. The technique was crude by galactic standards. No elegant biochambers or quantum-level reconstruction. Just human ingenuity, persistence, and a willingness to work with the body's natural systems instead of replacing them. "The best part," Lisa continued, "is that this treatment creates permanent immunity. If these cancer cells ever try to return, the immune system will destroy them immediately." Dr. Janet Cole, the team's immunologist, burst through the laboratory door with a tablet in her hands. "You need to see this," she said breathlessly. "I just got the results from our other test subjects. The data was extraordinary. 12 patients with different types of advanced cancer, all declared incurable by Council standards, were showing complete remission. More importantly, their immune systems had developed permanent resistance to their specific cancer types." "We need to publish these results," Tom said. "The medical community needs to know." "Are you insane?" Janet replied. "The Galactic Council monitors all human medical communications. If they discover we've solved something they couldn't, there will be consequences." The room fell silent. Everyone knew the stories of human researchers who had made discoveries that challenged alien superiority. Some disappeared, others found their funding cut, and their careers destroyed. The Council maintained peace in the galaxy partly by ensuring that primitive species remained primitive. But as they looked at the data showing 12 impossible recoveries, each scientist realized they faced a choice that would define not just their careers, but potentially the future of human medicine. Lisa made the decision for all of them. We publish everything. Humanity deserves to know that we don't need alien technology to heal ourselves. None of them could have predicted that their research paper, uploaded to a simple human medical database, would soon trigger the greatest crisis the Galactic Council of Healers had faced in millennia. The alert came during the Council's routine monitoring of primitive species medical activities. Junior Analyst Rix, a young Altarian tasked with cataloging human medical failures, almost deleted the file without reading it. The title seemed typical of human arrogance. Revolutionary immunotherapy achieves complete cancer remission in advanced cases. Humans frequently claimed breakthroughs that proved to be nothing more than temporary improvements or statistical manipulations. But something about the attached data made Rix pause. The biosignatures were unlike anything in the Council's extensive medical database. Supervisor Ken. Rix called across the monitoring station. I think you should examine this human report. Supervisor Ken floated over, his Luminian form shifting between energy and matter with annoyance. Another human delusion about their primitive medicine. Look at these cellular readings, Rix insisted, displaying the data on a holographic projector. The cancer markers show complete elimination, but there's no evidence of Council technology being used. Ken's form solidified as he focused on the display. The readings showed something that should have been impossible: cancer cells that had not just been destroyed, but had been systematically hunted down by the patient's own immune system. This must be falsified data, Ken declared. Humans are known for fabricating results to appear more advanced than they are. But as they examined more files from the human research team, the evidence became undeniable. 12 different patients, 12 different cancer types, all showing identical patterns of immune system-mediated recovery. Alert the medical council immediately, Ken ordered, his usual dismissive attitude replaced by concern. Within hours, the greatest healers in the galaxy were analyzing the human data. The conference room buzzed with confused conversations as species after species confirmed the same impossible conclusion. Dr. Vex stood before the assembly, his forearms moving erratically as he struggled to explain what they were seeing. The humans appear to have achieved something we considered theoretically impossible, he announced. They have trained the immune system to permanently recognize and destroy specific cancer cell types. Impossible, declared Dr. Kess. We have studied immune responses for millennia. Natural immune systems cannot be programmed with such precision. And yet, Vex continued, the evidence suggests they have done exactly that. Moreover, their method creates permanent immunity. These patients will never develop these specific cancers again. The assembly erupted in disbelief. The Centaurians, with their advanced healing abilities, had never achieved permanent cancer immunity. The Hive medics, with their genetic manipulation skills, had never programmed immune systems so precisely. Even the Luminians, with their quantum-level cellular control, had never created such targeted biological responses. Dr. Niall's energy form flickered rapidly with agitation. How can a species that still cuts flesh with metal tools achieve what our most advanced biochambers cannot? The question hung in the air like an accusation. For centuries, the Council had dismissed human medicine as barbarically primitive. They had watched humans poison themselves with chemotherapy, burn themselves with radiation, and mutilate their bodies with surgery. The idea that such crude methods could produce superior results challenged everything the Council believed about medical advancement. We need to examine these humans directly, announced Elder Healersash, the ancient Centaurian who led the Council. If they have truly discovered something beyond our understanding, we must investigate immediately. With respect, Elder, interrupted Dr. Vex, our previous contact attempts with humans have been unsuccessful. They refuse our healing technology and insist on maintaining their primitive methods. Then we observe without contact, Zash replied. Dispatch a stealth research vessel to Earth. We must understand how they achieved this breakthrough. As the Council made plans for covert observation of human medical facilities, none of them considered the possibility that they might be walking into a trap of their own making. Their certainty in their medical superiority had blinded them to a fundamental truth that humans had discovered through necessity and desperation. Sometimes the most advanced solution was not the best solution. Sometimes working with natural systems instead of replacing them could achieve results that no technology could match. The humans had not just cured 12 cases of impossible cancer. They had accidentally discovered a principle that would revolutionize medicine throughout the galaxy. If the Council could overcome their pride enough to learn from a species they had always considered inferior. The stealth ship launched toward Earth 3 days later, carrying the galaxy's most accomplished healers on a mission that would either confirm human primitiveness or shatter everything the Council believed about the nature of healing itself. The Council's stealth observation ship Medical Advance hung in Earth's orbit, invisible to human detection systems. Inside its clinical white corridors, the galaxy's most prestigious healers crowded around monitoring stations, watching human medical facilities with a mixture of fascination and horror. Dr. Vex adjusted the ship's bioscanners to focus on Berkeley Medical Center, where the impossible cancer treatments had originated. What they observed challenged every principle of advanced healing. They're literally cutting into the patient, reported Dr. Kess, her 6 hands trembling with disgust as she watched a human surgical procedure. Look at that primitive metal blade slicing through healthy tissue to reach the diseased area. On the main display, human surgeons worked with what appeared to be Stone Age tools compared to Council technology. No biochambers that could extract tumors without breaking skin. No cellular reconstructors that could rebuild organs atom by atom. Just humans with sharp instruments, chemical anesthetics, and steady hands. Barbaric, muttered several observers. But Dr. Nile, studying the quantum-level data, noticed something unusual. Wait, his energy form pulsed with confusion. Look at the cellular response patterns. The trauma from their crude surgery is actually triggering beneficial immune responses. The assembled healers focused their instruments on the surgical site. Where Council technology would have left perfect, unmarked tissue, the human surgery created controlled damage that activated repair mechanisms throughout the body. The surgical trauma is releasing chemical signals, observed Junior Analyst Ricks. These signals are awakening dormant immune functions we didn't know existed. Elder Healer Zash, who had remained silent during the observation, finally spoke. Show me the cancer immunity treatments again. The display switched to the immunotherapy laboratory, where Dr. Lisa Park and her team were preparing another batch of modified immune cells. The process looked chaotic compared to Council precision. Humans hunched over microscopes, manually extracting cells and using crude chemical processes to alter their function. They're not replacing the immune system, Zash observed. They're training it. This concept was foreign to Council medicine. When an immune system failed, they replaced it with artificial alternatives or rebuilt it from scratch. The idea of teaching the original system to function better had never occurred to them. Look at the long-term data, urged Ricks, displaying files from human patients treated months earlier. Their immune systems are not just cured, they're stronger than before treatment. The revelation struck the assembly like a physical blow. Council healing, for all its perfection, essentially returned patients to their original state. Human healing, crude as it appeared, was making patients better than they had ever been. Impossible, whispered Dr. Kess. Superior healing cannot result from inferior methods. But the evidence was undeniable. Human patients were developing immune capabilities that surpassed anything Council technology could provide. Moreover, these improvements were permanent and continued to strengthen over time. There's more. announced the ship's chief analyst, a hive medic whose compound eyes could process vast amounts of data simultaneously. I've been monitoring global human medical facilities. Their crude methods are producing results across multiple conditions we consider incurable. New displays showed human treatments that defied council understanding. Diabetic patients whose bodies learned to produce insulin again after experimental treatments. Paralyzed patients who regained movement through brutal physical therapy that council healers would consider torture. Patients with genetic disorders who overcame their conditions through treatments that pushed their bodies to adapt and evolve. They're not just healing, realized Dr. Nile. They're forcing evolution. The statement silenced the room. Evolution was considered a random, uncontrollable process. The idea that it could be directed and accelerated through medical intervention was revolutionary. Elder healer Zash stood slowly, his ancient frame betraying his age. "We have made a fundamental error," he announced to the shocked assembly. "We assumed that advanced technology automatically produces superior results." "But Elder," protested Dr. Vex, "our methods are painless, precise, and perfect. How can crude human brutality be superior?" "Because," Zash replied, "we have been fixing problems. They have been solving them." The distinction was crucial. Council medicine could perfectly repair any damage, but it never prevented that damage from occurring again. Human medicine, through trauma and training, was teaching bodies to prevent problems from developing in the first place. "What do we do with this information?" asked Dr. Kess. The question hung in the air as the galaxy's most advanced healers realized they had discovered something that challenged the foundation of their civilization. They could continue pretending human medicine was primitive, or they could admit that sometimes the most advanced species in the galaxy could learn from the most primitive. The choice they made would determine not just the future of galactic medicine, but the relationship between advanced and developing civilizations throughout the galaxy. 6 months after the covert observation mission, the Galactic Council of Healers faced its greatest crisis in recorded history. The revelation about human medical achievements had divided the Council into two opposing factions, threatening to tear apart millennia of cooperative medical advancement. In the main assembly hall of Nexus Prime, Elder Healer Zash stood before a crowd of angry healers. Half the assembly demanded that human medical techniques be studied and integrated into council practices. The other half insisted that acknowledging primitive human superiority would destroy the foundation of galactic civilization. "The evidence is irrefutable," declared Dr. Nile, his energy form flickering with passionate conviction. "Human immunotherapy techniques have achieved permanent cures for conditions we can only temporarily suppress." "Temporary suppression that lasts centuries," countered Dr. Vex. "Our methods provide perfect, pain-free healing. Why should we adopt primitive techniques that cause deliberate trauma?" The debate had raged for months. Progressive healers argued that council medicine had reached a plateau, providing perfect repairs but never achieving genuine improvement. Conservative healers maintained that superior technology could not produce inferior results, regardless of what Earth data suggested. But the argument became moot when unexpected visitors arrived at the council chambers. The doors opened to admit a delegation of humans, led by Dr. Lisa Park and her research team. They walked calmly into the assembly hall, seemingly unaware that they were the first primitive species ever to enter the galaxy's most sacred medical space uninvited. "Honored healers," Dr. Park addressed the shocked assembly. "We know you've been watching our work. We've been watching yours as well." The admission sent ripples of alarm through the crowd. How had primitive humans detected advanced council surveillance? "We've monitored your medical practices for decades," continued Dr. Tom Rivera. "Your technology is impressive, but it has a fundamental flaw that we can help you address." Elder Healer Zash raised one hand for silence. "Humans, you were offered council membership 50 years ago. You refused our advanced healing methods. Why do you come to us now?" Dr. Park smiled with the confidence of someone who held all the cards. "Because we've discovered something your advanced civilization missed. Your healing is perfect, but it's also static. You can fix any problem, But you can't make systems stronger than they were originally. That is sufficient, interrupted Dr. Kess. Original biological design represents optimal function. Does it? Asked Dr. Janet Cole, stepping forward with a tablet full of data. Our cancer patients now have immune systems that can detect and destroy threats your technology cannot even identify. Our paralyzed patients have developed neural pathways that bypass damage in ways your cellular reconstructors cannot replicate. She activated a holographic display showing comparative data. Human patients treated with crude methods were outperforming counsel patients in long-term health outcomes, resistance to new diseases, and overall biological resilience. Impossible, whispered Dr. Vex, but his voice lacked conviction. We're not here to criticize your methods, Dr. Park continued diplomatically. We're here to propose collaboration. Your technology can eliminate suffering during treatment. Our approach can create permanent improvements that prevent future problems. The suggestion was revolutionary. Combining counsel precision with human evolutionary medicine could create healing methods that surpassed both civilizations working alone. You would share your techniques with us? Asked Elder Healers Ash. We'll do better than that, replied Dr. Rivera. We'll teach you the principle behind them. The key isn't the specific treatments. It's understanding that healing and improvement are different goals requiring different approaches. Over the following hours, the human delegation explained concepts that had never occurred to counsel healers. They demonstrated how controlled stress could trigger beneficial adaptations, how working with natural systems could produce results superior to replacing them, and how apparent medical failures often led to breakthrough discoveries. The breakthrough moment came when Dr. Park posed a simple question. When did your medical advancement stop progressing? The question struck at the heart of counsel complacency. Their healing technology had indeed plateaued centuries ago, achieving perfection but never moving beyond it. Perhaps, suggested Elder Healers Ash after long consideration, true advancement requires embracing imperfection as a pathway to improvement. The Council voted that day to establish the first joint human galactic medical research stations. For the first time in galactic history, an advanced civilization formally acknowledged that they could learn from a primitive species. The irony was not lost on anyone present. The galaxy's most sophisticated healers had discovered that sometimes the best medicine required a little bit of controlled chaos, strategic imperfection, and the willingness to make patients stronger rather than just fixing what was broken. Humanity had taught the galaxy that innovation often came not from perfecting existing methods, but from questioning whether perfection was the right goal in the first place.